What is going on, Cardano community? Welcome back to the official Dapp Central YouTube channel. My name is Fareed, and as a part of today's video, I've got a very special guest from the Paribus team, which is going to be Deniz, the CEO. Welcome to the channel, Deniz. How are you doing today?
Hey Farid, thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you doing?
Awesome. I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on this morning. We had the chance of meeting in person at Rare Bloom, and that was a good experience. So this is the second time we're going to be collaborating and chatting a little bit about Paribus.
Yeah, we'll probably chat more as we have a busy 2023 ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to talk a little bit about that. You guys have an updated roadmap. You guys got the testnet MVP and just so much going on. So before we dive into that, I do want to give the viewers just a brief heads up as to what we're actually going to be chatting about. And then I'll be turning it over to you to kind of give us a bit of insight as to what you guys have been building and the progress you guys have been making over the course of the last year or two. Now, as a part of this video, we're first going to start off with a personal introduction from Deniz, who, as I mentioned, is going to be the CEO of the Paribus protocol. After that, we're going to get his thoughts on a recent appearance that they had on Cardano 360, which is a feature done by IOG, highlighting some of the builders on the ecosystem. Following that, we're going to talk about their new and updated roadmap for 2023, their current priorities and development. And then after that, we're going to talk about their highly anticipated Mainnet launch. Yes, you guys heard me right. They're going to be launching on the Mainnet in the coming weeks. Now, after that, we've got a few community questions, and then we're going to wrap up by talking or getting some closing thoughts from Deniz, the man himself. Without taking up any more time, Deniz, do you mind giving us a brief introduction to yourself and what you're doing with the Paribus protocol?
Sure. So my name's Deniz. I'm based in London. I been a software engineer for over 10 years now. That's basically my trade. Although my title is CEO, I'm more on the technical side of things. I started my career with Web2 side of things, of course, working at startups, medium-sized companies to large corporates. Then about 6 or 7 years ago, I came across blockchain in one of my corporate jobs. And since then, I basically thought, like, this is way too interesting to ignore. So I switched from Web2 to Web3. And since then, I've been dabbling on a few things within the crypto space, within the Web3 space. So I co-founded a few startups before this. And my latest venture is Paribus. We've been working on this for over 18 months now. So Paribus is effectively a DeFi lending and borrowing platform with a intersection across Metaverse and NFTs. So what we're trying to do is bring the two together, where we bring more utility to existing NFT collections and Metaverse lands by allowing you to borrow against them based on a dynamic and autonomous valuation mechanism and a dynamic interest rate model. And this way, we believe we will be able to leverage the liquidity and the market cap of the NFT market size, NFTs in general, to make them way more liquid than they are today. And I think it is the demand, as the demand for NFTs grow and as the use cases for NFTs grow, Paribus itself will become a lot more valuable as there is a gap in the market to make sure that NFTs are as liquid as possible.
Awesome. That's a really good intro there. And I just have to say, what actually drew me to Paribus the most was what you just highlighted there very lastly, which was the NFT collateral and the Metaverse integration. I think that's something that we haven't seen actually done very well, if at all, within the Cardano ecosystem specifically. I'm not too sure about Ethereum per se, but I know for sure within Cardano, there's no platform allowing us to leverage or tap into the value of our NFTs and the metaverse land that we may hold. So that's one thing that I'm excited to be talking about, and hopefully we'll be able to see that, coming online soon. So we'll be talking about that in just a minute, but moving things right along. You guys were recently featured on Cardano 360, in which we saw Wilson Davis, who is the COO, was interviewed by Tim Harrison from IOG. What are your thoughts about that? And obviously, you guys are getting a lot more buzz within the Cardano ecosystem, but do you want to weigh in on that very briefly?
Yeah. So IOG has been there for us from day one. I mean, they are indirectly a seed investor within Paribus itself. So they've been supporting us from different angles. And since our development started, they've been supporting us from business development to marketing angles. And it's one of those things that we enjoy appearing in the Cardano 360 show. Although a lot of people say, oh, well, Paribus is built on Solidity and not Cardano natively. That's always been the case. We've never actually promised to build on Plutus in the first place. But the reality is that we wanted to build in Solidity so that we can sit between the two realms of non-EVM and EVM and allow sort of liquidity and NFTs to flow back and forth. That's always been our goal. We never sort of say we're strictly Cardano, we're strictly Ethereum. We want to be in that sort of limbo so that we can pivot to where demand is and where liquidity is. At the end of the day, Paribus is only successful if it has liquidity and if it has loans being generated on it. And we have to be able to move quickly. So yeah, being on the Cardano 360 shows gives us the outreach that we need within the Cardano space, but even beyond the Cardano space, because a lot of people that's outside the Cardano realm actually watch these shows to get an understanding of what Cardano is doing in general. You know, the NFT market, the NFT space is very live in Cardano, but what else is happening in Cardano? And people watch these shows to see it. So yeah, it gives us a good exposure, and we always enjoy talking to our host over there. And we hope to appear soon again, which will be, I think, in a couple of months.
Yeah, I'm excited to definitely see it. I did not expect that by any means, and I think Wilson did an amazing job representing Paribus. That said, I like what you mentioned there, that Paribus is somewhat aiming to be blockchain agnostic, right? You guys are not picking one to say, hey, you know, we're only focused on Cardano or we're only focused on Ethereum. As you said, I think the future of DeFi and what you guys are building in general is going to be interoperability, which is going to be key. And we're already seeing a lot of different projects within the ecosystem, Cardano specifically, start to branch out and also kind of go this multi-chain or this supporting on multiple blockchain approach moving forward. So I think that's going to be the new norm, and you guys are just a little bit ahead of the curve. Now, for anybody who missed this particular episode, I will go ahead and leave the link to this video down in the description below. I highly recommend that you guys go ahead and check it out again. I found it to be very insightful and very useful as to what Paribus is actually bringing and doing for Cardano. All right, now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the brand new roadmap for 2023. You guys released this, I want to say about a week or two ago, and I actually did a full video review of this new roadmap. But do you kind of mind breaking down what the new roadmap entails? I'm going to go ahead and share that here with the viewers here. I know we have some additional features surrounding the MVP, governance, NFTs, institutional adoption, and your metaverse plays. So go ahead, give us the scoop on the new updated roadmap.
So the roadmap, we thought this out in detail to see what sort of timeline we should follow in regards to where the demand is coming from, where we see the trends are going to, so we could sort of pivot quickly. So we started, of course, the year with the MVP, which is hopefully due to go live in the next 10 to 12 days, let's say. Hacking report is still ongoing, so we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a later part of the show. But after the MVP, so the main surprise for us is actually the synthetics integration into the MVP. So the MVP was supposed to be released where we will support, let's say, ADA, ETH, Bitcoin, and USDT as a collateral form initially. But we actually managed to code and complete some of the features faster than we had initially thought we will be able to. And the synthetics side is actually complete. So the MVP will be released with those 4 collaterals, but it will be quickly followed up by the synthetics because the code is complete, the audit is ready, and there's no point of holding on to a feature that's basically ready. And we see that synthetics is becoming a larger and larger part of the market. Right now, there's obviously the DeFi protocol called Synthetics with an X that's running the show on the synthetic side of things. But because of its success, now we see other platforms and other rivals popping up to it and trying to sort of compete with synthetics. And we see this trend sort of going beyond what it was till today, and especially with stuff like liquid staking derivatives, which is essentially a form of synthetics. I think there's going to be way more use cases coming in through DeFi, through these liquid staking derivatives. And we want to be able to sort of cover that market as well and accept it as a collateral. So that's one of the surprises that we want to put into the MVP as quickly as possible. So it will be first those 4 collaterals, then followed up by quickly, maybe a few weeks, couple of weeks with synthetics integration. And then we actually squeezed in something that was not part of the roadmap at all for this year, the governance. So the governance got designed based on 2 facts, really. We have always said from the start that the co-founder team wants to phase out. We do not want this project to be a centralized project. So we want to open source everything we build. We want to put out every decision to the community members. And we want to sort of just phase out, as the founder team, so that we do not have ultimate control over the protocol. So that's why we pushed the PBX governance model ahead of its schedule, and that will be aimed to be going live. Preliminary dates looking at late March to early April is when we're looking for vePBX to go live, depending on audit speed and all the fixes, etc. So with the vePBX, we try to make it as fair as possible by looking at what are the downsides of existing governance modules. So obviously, a lot of governance is skewed towards what we call in the space as whales. So the more tokens you hold, the more power you have, so you can sway the protocol. We actually saw the same thing happen recently, about a week ago, on Uniswap. A16Z, the obvious funding company, the venture capitalist, they hold apparently about 6 to 7% of the Uniswap supply. So they could sway decisions if they wish on governance side, which they tried to actually last week. But we did not want the same thing to happen to Paribus. So we introduced quadratic voting. So the more tokens you have and the more you try to sway the decision, it will actually become a lot more expensive for you to push that vote through, because every vote sort of loses its power as that yes side or the no side sort of grows in size. It becomes way more expensive for you to push those votes through. So we tweaked up and we introduced some mandatory things, like you have to participate in governance once a month. So you have to actually vote for something, yes, no, abstain, to be able to eligible for rewards, because we want people to actually actively be part of governance. We have a lot of governance modules that are basically sort of dry now and dead because people just forget it. They don't interact with it. They just are not interested in it. But if you kind of forced into some sort of mechanism where people have to vote, then it should become more of a success. So that's why we introduced this stuff. And yeah, so we want to go live with it around late March to early April with vePBX and governance, and start putting up proposals for the community to vote on, so they could start directing the platform accordingly. I mean, once we get to a certain maturity, I actually want to propose certain features to the community to say which should we go with first. Should we go with Paribus Pro? Should we go with Meta Mortgages? Should we go with so P2P loaning system? Which feature would you like to see first, kind of thing? So they could actually set the roadmap, not just sort of adjust the protocol level fees, etc. So that's governance side. We're quite excited about that. We've made some plans around it on sort of the APYs, the returns, the way it should work. The UI UX is complete, so we'll have some sneak peeks of the UI UX. The contracts are 90% complete, and we're actually ahead of our development time on the PBX as well, which is of course always good news. Then we could follow up with other stuff. So once that's done, we quickly want to move on to our USP, which is the NFT side of things. We want to release the USP around end of Q2 or early Q3 of this year. So roughly 4 to 6 weeks after vePBX, we want to release the NFT side of things. Our code base is actually ready. So there are a few tweaks being made, but we want to sort of structure things that make sense. So even though the code base is ready, it will go through audit, of course. So we will partner with Hacken again on the audit side. Hacken will do the audits for us. It'll probably be 2 or 3 rounds of audits. It won't be just one. We are trying to get a second company to do a second audit on the NFT side. And once that's done, we plan to sort of release the NFT side, Maybe we'll start small, so we'll cap the number of loans that we'll generate, or the amount of loans, the maximum amount of loan that you can generate, to see how the system is behaving, especially in the downturn of the market. Well, I hope it's all up from here for all of us, but the market is a market, so we want to test the system and try to sort of take out as many loans as possible, see how it reacts when liquidity is low, when there's a lot of liquidations. We've run tests in testnet, but of course it's mainnet is the mainnet, and things just sometimes behave differently in mainnet. So that's the third piece. And as a part of that release, we actually want to release a Paribus NFT collection. So the NFT collection itself initially won't be used as a collateral form, but the NFT would give you more perks on top of the governance perks. So you will have 3 tiers of NFTs from various rarity, from silver to gold, and then each of them will have perks, and they will be attached with a hard-coded multiplier point, which basically means if you hold a certain NFT with certain rarity, and you have already staked with vePBX, we will use your multiplier point from the NFT to increase your APY. We want to give the opportunity to our current community to come in first to mint the NFTs, and then sort of open up to the public, because community has been patiently waiting for 18 to 20 months now, and we actually want to give something back to them in priority. So that's the NFT side. I think once the USB, once the NFT side goes out, one of our main USPs is there. And with the NFTs, it's not just NFTs, because we're basically working with ERC 721s or Cardano's NFTs, which are essentially the foundation of metaverses. So if you buy land on decentral land, or if you buy an NFT on the Clay collection on Cardano, it's all sort of the same fundamental token type, and we can value them just the same way we value NFTs, because they basically output the same data points and the metrics. So we will actually be able to support NFTs and metaverse lands immediately once this third module is released this year. And we want to partner up with a few metaverses to say we support the lands and the characters and the in-game items as a collateral form on Paribus, and which will basically lead us up to the last point, metaverse, which I'll come back to in a bit. So that's the third part, and then the fourth part is where I believe we're sort of trying to cover the trend, where we believe DeFi is going. DeFi till date has been sort of more, well, let's call them quote unquote degenerate, sort of place and space where people get extremely high APYs, which is not sustainable. We had the whole peak and the down, and now we're sort of at a level where I think we're seeing some sort of maturity. We still see ridiculous APYs on certain coins, but it's not as before. It's more of sustainable methodologies that have been sort of picked up by individuals and investors. And I think this trend will continue. And with what's going on with the latest round of institutional investments and the regulations and etc., I think now it's time for actual institutions to come into DeFi at the scale and start generating yield for their customers as an alternative to their current financial models. So where I see, for example, what's happening in the next 12 to 18 months is certain banks from Web2 space will actually come into DeFi and integrate with certain DeFi protocols to generate an X amount of percentage return. And they will offer it to their customers as an investment or a savings account. And I think this trend will continue, because we've seen just last week, Russia's biggest bank, Cyberbank, has now integrated with DeFi protocols. We have just got the news that Revolut, which is a UK-based neobank, he has 25 million customers, has now integrated DeFi yield options into their app, which means 25 million customers can actually put money into DeFi and get a return back. And this trend will continue as regulations mature up. And we want to be we want to sort of corner that market as much as possible and try to get some of that institutional money into Paribus, which is why we're going to introduce Paribus Pro. Paribus Pro is essentially 1, 2, 3 wrapped up with a KYC. So we want to allow only people who have KYC to borrow or to lend their funds within Paribus Pro. So everybody's sort of, KYC, then we tick all the boxes in terms of legislations, etc. And that way we could appeal to the bigger players in the space, well, outside the space that want to come into the space. So that's Paribus Pro. I don't imagine it to take huge amounts of time because, as I said, the code base is essentially same as Paribus Basic or the Paribus DeFi version. We just add additional checks and methods to make sure we're legally compliant with everything we need to be. And so that's that. And then the last piece, which is going back to NFTs as well, is the metaverse. So once we have the NFT side up and complete, we want to start offering meta mortgages. So if we, for example, partner with one of the metaverse, let's call it Decentraland for the example, and Decentraland says we have partnered with Paribus, you can now buy land in our metaverse using a mortgage rather than upfront payment. So if you have collaterals that we support, you'll be able to go into this Decentraland metaverse. We'll probably have like kiosks there. We actually have designs for the kiosk in 3D that we have already implemented, but we're waiting for the time to come through. And you will go to the kiosk, you say, okay, this is my collateral, which will basically be picked up from your wallet that's connected to the metaverse. And if we support it, we'll be like, okay, we'll give you this much loan, we'll take this out, and you could pay us on a monthly basis for a fixed period in return for this piece of land that you want to buy in the metaverse. So that's meta mortgages. I think that's an exciting twist to the whole NFT side of things because it becomes more like a real world interaction where people are used to sort of taking out mortgages, buying a property. And now we're taking that whole concept and twisting it around and put it into the metaverse. So that's our current roadmap. We do have a very busy 2023. We have a couple of things which we didn't include on here on purpose because it's sort of a bonus thing. So if we make all of these in time, then we have a couple more exciting things that we want to add. But I don't want to make any promises or sort of spill anything right now. I think if we meet the deadlines from 1 to 3, then we can go into sort of surprise announcements on the bonus items for the year as well.
Wow, that was quite a bit of information to digest, and I have to say that you're an amazing speaker, Deniz. Great job, and I definitely appreciate that. I can't rebut everything, but I will definitely be following up with you personally afterwards. But I do just have to say, kind of jumping back at the first few points you made, synthetics are going to be huge. I think that we've seen this, like you said, with the synthetics platform or the synthetics Dapp already launching. We also have, I think it's called Indigo here on Cardano, and they're the #1 collateralized debt provider right now in the ecosystem. So I think there's a lot of adoption for synthetics, and people are starting to see the power behind them, being that they can stay in their ecosystem and still get exposure to whatever asset, is being represented by the synthetic token. So that was the first thing I was going to say there. I think synthetics market is going to be huge in the fact that Paribus is going into that. It's going to bring a lot of liquidity to Paribus. Now, I have another question, and then I'm going to pose the question to you now, and I'll give you a little bit of time to think while I continue some of my other points I just wanted to quickly highlight. Sure. But we just saw the stablecoin launch, which was DJED. That's an over-collateralized stablecoin. I'm sure you saw all the news about that. So I'm wondering, is that something you guys are planning to adopt? And again, I'll give you a second to kind of think about that here. Now, what I wanted to also highlight is the fact that you said you guys will be bringing vePBX, which is going to be the governance platform. That I think is going to be huge as well. We've already seen platforms like Indigo also bring on-chain voting, which they've already used to adopt brand new assets, which in this case was ETH, right? And then they're also using this to update their minimum collateral ratio on the platform. So the community is really driving how this platform is now being guided after the initial mainnet launch, which I think the community has really taken a liking to. And the fact that you guys are planning to do this with vePBX, I think is another bonus to what you guys are building. Now, I'm not sure if you highlighted this either, but I would be interested to see if you guys will be launching, and I would assume so, that you guys will be launching the vePBX platform on the testnet prior to actually launching that on the mainnet, right? So if you guys are doing that, I would love to be a part of that process, and I'm sure you guys will be opening that up to the public as well. Another thing that you mentioned was the
Yeah.
quadratic voting. That was quite impressive to hear as well, right? To hear that you guys are thinking way far in advance to try to stop the manipulation or the gaming of the actual voting system. So kudos to you guys and what you guys are doing there. And then in closing, you talked about the NFT collection. I'm excited to hear or to see the actual art and how that actually kind of works out. But yes, the community has been patiently waiting for that. And I think that the APY utility is going to just drive more people to actually participate in the staking platform if they have not already done so. And then very lastly, I just wanted to say when it comes to institutional adoption, that's going to be really key for exposure and additional liquidity. And the fact that you guys are doing it in a safe way by making sure that everybody's KYC'd. And you guys are, I assume, will be taking AML technology or an AML approach there as well, just to make sure that all the funds are clean and not being used for anything improper. Will only add to the credibility of Paribus. So again, for the sake of time, I have you on here. I want to give you a chance to speak, but those are the points that I just wanted to raise there. So if you have any, responses to that, I'll be more than happy to hear them.
Yeah, of course. So let's start from the top. DJED. So DJED integration. DJED is a stablecoin that we really want to support because, first of all, on a personal basis, I am a COTI holder. I've been holding COTI since 2017 when they released, and I actually haven't sold a single COTI since then. So I want COTI to succeed on a personal level, but I want COTI to succeed because I believe it's actually adding something that's missing within the Cardano ecosystem, which is, of course, the algorithmic stablecoin. And I think COTI team is one of the teams that could actually pull this off in a manner that's not going to replicate what Luna did, unfortunately. So DJED will definitely be integrated, but again, it's a question of how do we go to that integration? Because right now, as we know, our code base is Solidity, which means we're not polluters, and DJED is running on Cardano native. So if DJED has the ability to allow us to use it by bridging it across to maybe like the official sidechain or Milkameda, then DJED will definitely be supported. It's on our list to be supported as soon as we are able to support it at infrastructure level. So that's that. In terms of the PBX testnet, yes. So it will follow the same pattern that we've been following till date with the MVP launch. So we went through a rigorous bug campaign through ImmuneFi. We had a testnet run, and then we had a third audit. It will follow the exact same steps. We believe these steps are sort of prolonged and they take time, but they're valuable when you look at the long-term success of the platform. So we'll follow the same process. We will take vePBX testnet members. Of course, we'll add you to the list, and any other community member that wishes to play about with it will be added as well. So yeah, just wait for us to make the relevant announcements and the forms to fill out, and you will gain access that you will need. Just touching up on that quadratic voting thing. So quadratic voting is it was proposed by Vitalik, I think 2 years ago, based on a few problems that existed with public funding. But in reality, when you take the whole concept and twist it around and put it into governance, it works really well. And this sort of design is more of based on experience that we as the co-founders have had around governance of other projects that we're participating in. And I personally have seen a lot of votes being swayed by whales, which I didn't want the same problem to happen on Paribus. So we're like, well, we must do something about it. You can't just give all the power to the whales, because that basically defeats the whole point of crypto and decentralization. The whole point that we're doing all this is because we were tired and sick of that system where whales control everything and they run the show. So that's how it sort of came about. And I think it's a good solution. And I think there's only one more DeFi platform, as far as I know, that has implemented quadratic voting in the governance system so far. So if we can be a success, maybe other DeFi protocols will quickly start changing the way they do governance as well. And then on the last point, institutional KYC AML, yeah, so we'll follow, we will probably use Quadrata, which is a decentralized KYC provider. We do want to use a decentralized KYC provider as opposed to a centralized, because we want people to own their data effectively. And when you upload your stuff onto these, let's say on FeedUp, the KYC provider, yes, it's uploaded and it's stored safely, but it's still in the hands of a centralized entity, and would rather utilize these centralized KYC providers who use technology like ZK to encrypt and break off your data into small bits. So even if one bit is exposed, nobody really can make anything out of it. So we'll use a decentralized KYC AML provider that's in line with the legal requirements. That should allow us to tick all the boxes that's relevant to start accepting institutional money.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the clear and thoughtful responses. I just have two more responses to that, and then we're going to keep things moving along because I do want to respect your time. So one thing I just want to say is that within the space, we see so many protocols being quick to launch on Mainnet. I think one of the advantages that Paribus really has, and it kind of goes back to the quadratic voting that you're talking about and all these different things that you guys are doing after watching other platforms launch on Mainnet and then kind of hit some snags, right? So you guys are using their experiences to iterate, learn from it, and actually provide something that is even better. So I'm excited to hear you guys are not in a rush to get a product out there just to say, hey, we're on the mainnet, but instead you guys are taking this really methodical approach and viewing and watching everybody else in the space that's already kind of in the niche that you guys are in, and then learning and iterating on what they're putting out. And then the very last thing I wanted to say was about the KYC thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with IMX. They're going to be a decentralized identity solution building on Cardano. And I would just maybe just plug them in or shout them out here. And maybe you guys could, partner up. But I know they're going to be building and being cross-chain as well, right? So I think it kind of fits the narrative you guys are going along, but they're going to be providing users with a reusable KYC, and they're going to have their own wallet and things like that. So that could potentially be something you guys could explore. I just wanted to do my due diligence and just kind of shout them out here while I have the opportunity. Now,
yeah, that sounds good. I'll definitely look into them. You said they called IMX?
yes, it's capital IAMX. I pronounce it IMX. But yes, they're going to
Okay.
be a DIT solution building on Cardano, and they're going to be getting ready to actually launch on Mainnet. But they're going to have like these biometric stations where people can come in and generate their DIDs all across the world. And like I said, they'll be reusable, and you can actually plug them in into a bunch of different dApps that are going to be launching, not only within Cardano, but within the blockchain space. So I'm excited for what they're building. All
Okay,
right.
cool. We'll definitely check them out.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, moving things along, let's just dive a little bit deeper into the mainnet launch. I know you kind of talked about that as a part of the roadmap, but do you mind giving us an idea? Because right now you guys are undergoing the second audit, right? You guys had one done by Twig already, which was successful. And then you guys are now going another audit by the Hacking Club, right? Which is still in progress. Once that actually wraps up, can you give us a little bit more clarity as to what your future plans are going to be post-launch? And obviously, since the audit is still ongoing, could you maybe also give us a timeline?
Yeah. So we had the initial report back to us on Monday, I think it was, or Tuesday. So we've been fixing the few adjustments that they recommended. So nothing major at the moment. It's more tweaks, optimizations that they've highlighted. So we're fixing those. We want to give it back to Hacken by the end of today, or maybe even tomorrow, which is 8th of February or 9th of February. And then hopefully we can have it cleared to go live from Hacken side, at least on Friday. Then our goal is to go live anywhere between 12th to 15th of February, which is basically next week. So next week, Wednesday to Friday, is the potential go live date if things go well, which I think it will, but you never know. I shouldn't probably jinx myself. But yeah, so that's our plan. And then we will be quickly following up with a bunch of podcasts and videos on different channels and Twitter Spaces to follow up and make an announcement that we have gone live with our mainnet MVP. We have a few things planned. We have actually spoken to another channel today, Crypto Banter guys, which have been supporting us from day one, of course. This morning, I spoke to them, so they will be doing post-launch announcements with us for us. We have spoken to IOG to see what sort of marketing angle we could hit. And then we have we prepared what we call a vampire attack, which is basically what SushiSwap done to Uniswap. to get people from other DeFi blue chips like RV, Compound, to start checking out PBX and Paribus itself. So we want people to start moving maybe some of their liquidity, because when the product is first released, we imagine there will be a certain level of liquidity in the pools to borrow against, and then there will be loans generated, and then interest rate will rise because the utilization rate hits 80% or more. And of course, higher interest rate is always appealing to a lender. So this is the point of sort of appealing that we're going to use to hit these blue chip users. So we are running a script right now to sort of see who's participating in these blue chip DeFi's, and then we have a plan to sort of execute against them to say, hey, look, come check out Paribus. You could earn more interest. You could do this. You could do that, and hopefully start getting some user traction from there as well. And we actually want to sort of build that vampire attack into the vePBX model. So we have a plan where you will be able to claim sort of X amount of PBX, for example, as a blue chip participant, but you won't be able to claim it into your wallet. You'll be able to claim it and then push it directly into the vePBX staking module. So that way, we're getting the users that we want, but we're not adding sell pressure to the token itself. And we're actually trying to force participation from more mature DeFi users who know what they're doing within the space. And if we can give them continuous updates for the rest of the year and they see the value in the product, then hopefully with time, they will start switching more of their liquidity to Paribus. So that's sort of the campaign that we're designing and we're trying to execute. We are speaking to a couple of publication houses to push out the MVP release, and try to appeal to try to get in front of as many eyeballs as we can. So that's essentially our mainnet MVP go live program that we have scheduled to execute over the next 20 days.
I'm excited to hear that. I had never heard of the vampire attack before, but the way that you've described it, I'm not sure why other protocols, if maybe they've done it kind of behind closed doors, that's great, but I've not heard of that done before. I wasn't aware of what SushiSwap had done, but I think that's an amazing idea. It's almost like you're giving them a little taste. And once you get them on that taste, just based on what you guys have built and what you guys are already doing, they're going to be drawn in. And I think that that's going to be key is the marketing efforts once you guys go live. So I'm happy to hear that you guys will be getting shout outs by Ran and the Crypto Banter team. I actually got the pleasure of meeting Ran at the last Cardano consensus event last year in Austin, and that was a great experience. I think they're doing a lot of really good work there, and then also collaborating with IOG to kind of spread the word within the Cardano ecosystem as well, right? So that's really cool to hear. Now, I also just want to quickly plug in your own Paribus YouTube channel, right, where you guys have been sharing more and more educational content for the community to consume. So I believe you guys have just kind of like some basic concept around what you guys can actually do on Paribus, but I assume that as you guys launch on Mainnet, you guys will be releasing additional content on the actual Paribus official channel, highlighting, all the features in the actual Mainnet launch there.
Yeah. So we want to release a few tutorials on how to enter a market within Paribus, take out a loan, repay it, check your interest rates, close off a loan. So, all the basic tutorials, we want to do it and we want to push it out to our YouTube channel, as well as sort of a guidance or Git book that we will put together within the application itself. We're going to try to support the users as much as we can. We are looking for ways to sort of simplify the whole process in general. Like we want to ideally get rid of the whole concept of sort of connecting a standard MetaMask. We would like to have some sort of smart wallet in play, which sits between your actual wallet and the protocol. So that's an additional security to the user, even if their wallet is compromised, which is the MetaMask, because all the authority and all the funds are within the smart wallet, it will not be compromised. So even if your wallet is compromised, the smart wallet in the middle holds your funds, so that will still be safe and sound. And we want to add additional abstraction levels to the protocol to make it as simple as possible. Because I understand DeFi is doing great things, Web3 is amazing and it's democratizing the whole thing. But we have to be honest as well, the UI UX is not optimal. I mean, nobody comes into this space and is like, okay, I understand what I'm doing. Everybody goes through maybe 5-10 videos to understand the basics of even transaction signing, broadcasting, the whole concept of blockchain. So with that reality, we have to cater to these changing dynamics within the Web3 space.
Yeah, on the account abstraction, I think that's going to be key as well. We're not seeing a lot of DeFi protocols operate that way, but if you look at TradFi, that's exactly how they operate. How they operate. They give you a simple UI on the front end, but they've got different parts in the background that are managing everything just to make sure, like you said, if one part of the wallet is compromised, it doesn't necessarily affect everything else, right? So I'm excited to hear that. And then I also wanted to just quickly say before we move on to the next topic that education is going to be key, right? So the more content that you guys can make available within the community, the better, especially given that Paribus is going to be providing people with new options and new tools that they're not necessarily used to having before, right? So with great tools comes great responsibility. And I think that it's our job, right, as content creators, and then your job as, the actual platform to do your job in educating people as to properly and safely use these brand new tools.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we must do our best to educate people. I mean, that's essentially why we post so much on our blogs and articles. We want to sort of educate people at the basics and the fundamentals of understanding the concept around DeFi and blockchain, and the importance of funds management and all that. And then once that's done and people are in a comfortable place, then you start educating them about UI, UX, and how to actually use the thing.
I completely agree. Okay, in the spirit of keeping this not too long, I'm going to go ahead and move right along to the next topic. We've got 3 more questions. 2 of them are going to be from the community. So I actually asked the community prior to shooting this video if they had any questions that they wanted answered. And these were, I think, the 2 most thoughtful and the most relevant ones here. So I'm going to go ahead and pose them in just a minute. But what I had was a question about the bridge from the ERC version of the PBX token onto Cardano. I know you guys have the multi-chain collab, right, which allows for people to move their PBX tokens between different platforms. But could we potentially see a bridge between the Ethereum network and the Cardano network, given that the PBX token is now launched and available for trading on the Wing Riders DEX?
Yes. So we're working with multi-chain. Multi-chain is going to release a direct bridge from EVM, so Ethereum to Cardano and vice versa, and even Arbitrum as well. So we're working with multi-chain. We continue to get updates. They say they're close to a launch. So as soon as they're ready, it will just work by default because we're already on there. We're also talking to chainport.io. Chainport has built a concept that actually works right now, but the problem with the way the bridge works is we need to hand over a lot of policy control on our Cardano native token to Chainport because they lock up ERC20 side and then they actually mint the token on the target chain. But we want the minting to be basically no one, not even us. We shouldn't be able to mint. It should be through CLIs and program and actual code, not any sort of centralized entity. So we made that comment to Chainport. They understood the reason and the security concerns, and we spoke to them about 2 months ago on this actually. And they've been building and adjusting the way they do mint and release mechanism to work with tokens that do not want to hand over their policy. So last update we got from them was 2 weeks ago. They said they're getting close. So hopefully we'll hear from them maybe Q2, I think. And then once that happens, we'll be on there automatically as well. We are talking to one more bridge provider, but they're still in a bit of early phases. So I wouldn't expect them to go live with anything till maybe Q3, Q4.
Awesome. And to be honest, I think once we have at least one bridging mechanism or one bridging solution, that should suffice for the short term, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the more, the better. That way people can pick whatever they're most comfortable with. But I think as long as we just at least get one to start the process, the community will be extremely happy, and myself included. Now, moving along, I just want to ask the first community question, which is, will Paribus be planning to have any major exchange listings like we see on Coinbase or on Binance?
So Paribus is always seeking ways to be listed on tier 1 exchanges, but we do not seek to be listed with huge amounts of listing fees, because we don't believe that's a sustainable approach for the projects that are. I mean, what you typically see in the space is Binance comes along, says, okay, we'll list you for $500,000, whatever it is, the listing fee, usually minimum $500,000. The project basically empties a large portion of the treasury just to be listed. And then the project has to sell their tokens to actually recoup that spent money so that they still have the runway that they had. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to put our treasury under stress, and then we don't want to add sell pressure to the token. So we are talking to 2 tier 1 exchanges based on the fact that they approached us. We didn't approach them. So it's a long conversation because there's a lot of legal boxes that we have to tick before being listed on these exchanges. So yeah, I mean, I won't be able to say a lot more than that because I'm just not going to be able to justify this with them if they pick this up. So, but just wait to hear from us. We are working on things behind the scenes as much as we can.
I think that's more than a fair answer. And I think from a community standpoint, a lot of times people don't understand the background or what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to token listings. And so what you said, I think, is a perfect response, right? You guys don't want to take out a lot of the funds that you guys should be using elsewhere just for listing and then have to turn around, like you said, and actually sell the token, which would then hurt the community, right? So I think it makes more sense for you guys to do things the right way. And as Paribus grows, I think your time will come. But any exchange listing, I think, is better than none. So I'll definitely be keeping my ears glued to the ground for this next update that you guys have about this potential tier 2 exchange coming online. All right. The next question I have from the community, and I think I know the answer to this one, but I think we just want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to be changing here. But the question is, can you confirm that PBX will still continue to use and honor the ERC20 version of the token?
Yes. So whatever chain our token is available on, we will honor it and we will never disregard it. So Ethereum, Arbitrum, Milkameda, and Cardano tokens are the ones that exist right now, and they will always be used and have a place within the protocol, and we'll never sort of dismiss it. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that side.
I like it, short and sweet. And just for people that are probably watching this after, right? I think this stems from the fact that you guys had mentioned, potentially moving to Cardano and then launching a Cardano native token. I think there were some people concerned that you guys were basically going to stop using or stop providing utility to the ERC20 version of the tokens, which, as Deniz just stated, will not be the case. So I'm happy to hear that. Very lastly, let's get your closing thoughts on Paribus and just anything that you want to share with the community before wrapping up the video.
So my closing thoughts are, in general, we appreciate the patience that the community has had, and we appreciate that they understand why we're doing the things the way we're doing it. It's been a sort of slow and steady path for us. We didn't want to rush things, and I am thankful for the community to support us throughout this whole phase, especially during the more bleak times when market just continuously kept going down. So I would say we look forward to this whole year because we have a very busy calendar. We have a lot of things coming up. We have a couple of bonus things that we want to actually announce when time's right, which we think is very exciting. And continue to support us, and we will do our best to develop the platform to the best sort of benchmark that there is out there. We are confident in our code, and we do run many audits. We run through many companies getting quotes, and we have spent a substantial amount of money on audits alone, and we think it's worth every penny because the security of the platform is what makes it or breaks it in DeFi. And just a final note in general, so I always say this to people around me and sort of any project that I'm involved in. Euphoria is nice, when price is going up, everyone's happy, everyone's clapping, but always be sort of manage your risks well. Basically, don't try to go in and try to say, okay, I think this will go up 100x, and then I should just put everything I have into this. At the end of the day, it's a market. It's an open market. Nobody knows which way it's going to go. So be careful. I'm not saying don't invest in it, but I'm saying just be sensible in your investments and make sure to carry on supporting us, and hopefully we'll be carrying on the same way that we have started.
Yep, yep. I agree with those last words there. Everybody should definitely do their own diligence, and I agree with you as well that you guys should measure twice and cut once in terms of preparation and security measures for the launch of Paribus. Having said that, that is going to bring us to a close for this awesome interview by Deniz from the Paribus team. Again, I just want to thank you so much for your time and all the information and sneak peeks that you dropped with us here as a part of this video. I look forward to continuing our growing relationship and having you on for additional talks about Paribus. And again, the door's wide open, at least on my end. And again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about Paribus.
Thanks for having me. I actually want to say one last thing, which is irrelevant to Paribus. So I'm originally from Turkey. As we know, Turkey just had a devastating earthquake with Syria. So it's hit close to home. I have family members who are affected by it. So if anyone can like donate or at least support in another way, in another form, please do. People are in quite a severe situation, but hopefully things will be better with time.
Yes, and I definitely want to say that, our condolences and our thoughts go out to you and everybody affected during this time. I know there's definitely a few other protocols that have shared some addresses, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and actually drop those as well for anybody willing to donate down in the description below. Having said that, that is going to bring us to a close again. No, not a problem. Thank you. Again, I appreciate you coming on. I wish you a wonderful day. And again, thank you so much for sharing all this time and knowledge with us.